I'm interested in comparisons maybe to Fernando Alonso, a driver you did work with subsequently, and the guy who eventually stopped the run of Michael Schumacher championships. Were there any similarities in their approach, or were they very different?
No, I think they were quite different. You know, the natural ability was there with Fernando, of course, but you know, Fernando wasn't, as I think everyone knows these days, he's not a team person. He's a Fernando person, and while Michael was probably ultimately he was racing for himself, he brought the team along with him, and I don't think in Michael's entire career you would have ever heard him say anything bad about a team. I don't think you could say that about Fernando.
No,
so they're quite different.
Yeah, I think, Jimmy, you interviewed Luca de Montezemolo, didn't you? You went to the opening of the special Schumacher exhibition.
Yes, this is one of the inspirations for this story, because the Michael Schumacher collection has just opened in Cologne, near Kirpen, where he grew up. And it has 12 F1 cars, and it's his own private collection of trophies, overalls, caps, cars. And I think what the Schumacher family wanted to do is to put it on to show for the public, so it's free of charge to go and visit. And it really is a brilliant collection of and if you're a Michael Schumacher fan, then I advise you do go. And inside there's testimonies from many people, including Pat and Sebastian and rivals and team principals that he worked with. And yeah, it's a brilliant collection, and well worth visiting.
I think you went round with Luca, didn't you? And I think he made that point that Schumacher always supported the team,
Absolutely.
whether it was good or bad.
Yep.
And I guess that's probably the most valuable aspect of the Schumacher approach, isn't it? Realising that you're part of a bigger whole. It's not all about you, even though the driver often is so much the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a team sport. You know, we have a drivers' championship, we have a constructors' championship. The drivers' championship is more important. It is the one that the fans care much more about, but it is still a team sport.
Michael, would you say the best driver you ever worked with?
Yes, no hesitation in that.
Fernando Alonso, a two-time world champion, 22 pole positions, 32 wins. That's a commendable career by any means. But for someone of Alonso's stature, his talent, his determination, and his once-in-a-lifetime ability to perform, these numbers almost seem like an underachievement of sorts. Looking back, Alonso could easily have been a 4 or 5-time world champion. But whether it was fate, or karma, or his decision-making skills, he would not be able to win the championship again after his 2 consecutive title triumphs in 2005 and 2006. Alonso made his debut with Minardi, a perennial backmarker, in 2001. The youngster, still green and inexperienced, would outshine the car throughout the season and catch the eye of the then Benetton boss, Flavio Briatore. Briatore would hire Alonso as third driver for the team for the 2002 season and eventually promote the Spaniard to a race seat in 2003. Alonso would make 2003 as his breakthrough season in Formula One, as he would notch up his first Formula One victory at Hungary, making him the youngest ever Formula One race winner. He would keep up the consistency throughout the year and was considered amongst the bright prospects on the grid that would eventually take over once Michael Schumacher called it a day. Fernando Alonso, alongside Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Pablo Montoya, would consistently challenge Schumacher in races and were considered the future of Formula One. Alonso, on his part, would continue his form and consistency into 2004, where he would consistently outperform his teammate. The 2005 season was a season that came bearing gifts for anyone who was not part of Ferrari. It was the first year since the start of the millennium that Ferrari was caught off guard with a car that was woefully off the pace. Michael Schumacher was out of contention for the championship, and the title was to be contested between Mclaren and Renault. Alonso led the charge for Renault in a straight shootout against Kimi Raikkonen. The Finn would struggle with reliability and multiple teething issues with his McLaren throughout the season. Alonso, on the other hand, would keep notching up points consistently throughout the season, and by Brazil 2005 he would clinch the title from the Finn. In the process, Fernando Alonso also became the youngest Formula One champion in the history of the sport. In 2006, Renault kept the competitive edge, but this time they had a more complete competitor in Ferrari and Michael Schumacher. The duo would go back and forth throughout the season as Michael Schumacher would keep on pegging back the advantage Alonso had gained at the start of the season. All of this came to a conclusion at the Japanese Grand Prix, the penultimate race of the season, when Michael Schumacher suffered an engine failure for the first time since the year 2000. The engine failure all but sealed the championship for Fernando Alonso and made him the youngest two-time world champion in the history of the sport. In 2007, Fernando Alonso would move to McLaren, a bigger team with a richer history than Renault, in the hopes of continuing to challenge for the title and add to his tally of 2 world championships. The move would, however, turn out to be a disaster, as Alonso, expecting to be a de facto number 1 in the team, would face unexpected challenge from Lewis Hamilton, the McLaren protege, in his debut year with the team. Throughout the season, Hamilton would prove himself to be more than capable of fighting for the title, and Alonso, expecting the team to favor him as the lead driver, found himself in an uncharted territory. The relationship between the driver and the team would implode as both Alonso and Hamilton would lose the championship to Kimi Raikkonen by just 1 point. Alonso, on his part, would move back to Renault in 2008, and the relationship between the driver and the team would completely disintegrate. After moving to Renault, Alonso would sleepwalk through 2 seasons that were highly uncompetitive by the Spaniards' standards, and would also feature Alonso winning the inaugural Singapore Grand Prix, where his teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. would deliberately crash his car and bring out a safety car. Piquet Jr. would admit in 2009 that he had deliberately crashed his car following the orders given to him by the team boss Flavio Briatore. Despite Alonso being the primary benefactor of the incident, he would not face any charges. By the end of 2009, Alonso had signed a deal to drive for Ferrari in 2010. Ferrari was a Spaniard's dream team, and he went there with a mission to emulate what the greatest of all time, Michael Schumacher, had done during his period with the team. Alonso would start his journey with a win at Bahrain, as he benefited from the issues faced by the race leader Sebastian Vettel. Despite some initial hiccups, Alonso was able to slowly gain consistent momentum and took over the lead of the championship with his consistency and remarkable pace. Throughout the season, Alonso was also a benefactor of team orders, as the team would order Felipe Massa, Alonso's teammate, to let him through at the German Grand Prix. Coming to the last race of the season, Alonso was leading the championship, but a tactical error and Alonso's inability to overtake Vitaly Petrov resulted in Sebastian Vettel clinching the championship under the noses of both Fernando Alonso and Mark Webber. In many ways, 2010 was Alonso's best chance of winning the title with Ferrari, as the following years witnessed Red Bull pulling away from the rest of the field in terms of pace as well as completeness as the best team on the grid. In 2012, however, Alonso would put together arguably one of the greatest seasons in the history of the sport, as he fought for the championship in a car that had no right to compete at the top. Despite his best efforts, he would still fall short of the title, as Sebastian Vettel would clinch the title in the title decider at Brazil. Slowly but surely, friction had developed between Alonso and Ferrari. Alonso was starting to lose faith in the team's ability to build a car capable of winning the championship. And in 2014, after another disappointing season, Alonso would part ways with Ferrari and move to McLaren. The McLaren-Honda partnership was announced amongst a lot of fanfare and anticipation. With Fernando Alonso and Jenson Button, the team had two world champions driving for them in what was arguably the best drivers lineup on the grid. Honda was putting in a huge investment in the project, and the partnership was expected to produce great results. The outcome, however, was a huge disaster, as Honda would produce subpar engines one season after the other. The situation was so bad that the engine was just not capable of finishing a race distance. The two world champions would struggle for multiple seasons, as McLaren just didn't have the car good enough to fight even for points on a consistent basis. The McLaren-Honda partnership would subsequently end in 2017, and McLaren would switch to Renault as the engine partner. The 2018 season would see some improvement in the team's performance, as the team would be able to consistently fight for points. But Alonso by this time had lost complete faith in the team's ability to fight for championship. Dissuaded and to an extent out of patience, Alonso decided to take a sabbatical at the end of the 2018 season. Now, Alonso is making a return with Alpine, and the only motivation behind the move is his intent to clinch the gold one last time. But regardless of what he would accomplish in his second run in Formula 1, what is Alonso's legacy till now? With two world championships already in the bag, it's not an unfulfilled career by any means. But if you look at the near misses of Alonso's career, it makes you think whether he has achieved much less than what his talents deserved. Alonso was arguably the best driver on the grid from 2010 to 2014. He's lost as many as 3 titles in the last race of the season, and despite a 2-year sabbatical and his age, he was still approached to lead a works team. In many ways, whether it was luck, or whether his own doing, or whether his poor decision-making skills, Alonso has not been able to win more than 2 world championships throughout his career. But even at this juncture of his career, it's hard to deny that Alonso is arguably the greatest 2-time world champion in the history of the sport. Now, these were my views. Do share what you guys think. Just how good is Alonso's legacy in the sport? Has he underachieved, or has he done just what was expected of him? Do share what you guys think in the comment section. Please like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.